What's up, Heather?
What's up, B?
Well, it's Hoppy Wednesday. You know what that means.
I do know what that means. Hoppy Wednesday is when we dig into some truly unique bourbons from... Is that your digging motion? Cool. Anyway, we are going to dig into some truly unique bourbons from Damien and Lydia's private collection. So these aren't your average off-the-shelf bottles. These are hidden gems, rare finds, ooh, where did you get that? Bourbons. And we feel so lucky to be able to taste them.
So, if you've watched any of our Wednesday episodes over the past few months, you know that Damien and Lydia are the proprietors of Hoppy Endings. That is what they claim to be the Southeast's largest collection of bourbon. Heather doesn't want me to say that we claim it is for legal purposes that I don't understand. But what really sets them apart is their laid-back style and welcoming atmosphere. But I have to tell you, they've got a crap ton of bourbon. Now, we are lucky, to say the least, and that's kind of funny because this is the Gifted Horse, and it's got the horseshoe, which is about luck. But they've been supporters of us from day one.
We're so lucky to have them. Anyway, if you come to Raleigh, you got to give them a visit. We have linked their info in the description, as always. And in speaking of visitors, welcome to Tortured Bourbon. It's our little bit growing, slowly but surely, center of the bourbon tube universe. And then we specialize in being bourbon consumers in an allocated state. That's why we're called Tortured Bourbon. If it's your first time, please go ahead, click like, and subscribe. It really helps us out. I make B do 3 shows a week just to make all of you happy.
While we're all trying to keep Heather happy,
It's important.
go ahead and follow us on all of our social media. She wants to talk to you. It's kind of like a knitting circle. Or, a group of cougars at the bar.
Oh my God.
Or maybe a bunch of mothers at the pool that don't realize they're well beyond their prime. Thy name is woman.
Wow, B. I'm going to ignore all of that. Why don't we just move on to the whiskey before I kill you?
Well, today...
What do they call a group of dudes well past their prime?
Overweight. Well, today...
So there's not like a cougar equivalent? Is there?
Probably. I mean, I just don't know what it's
the
called.
term either. Silver fox? Is that kind of the...
That ain't me. Bald fox. I'm not past my prime.
No, I didn't say you were.
I'm well in my prime.
You called me past my prime.
No, I did not.
You said it.
You associated yourself with a group of ladies at the pool.
The male version of the term cougar is manther.
That sounds like a really bad cologne.
60% of the time it works.
100% of the time.
What Heather collects herself. Ponders life choices.
Oh, I'm on a mission to find you some Manther cologne.
While she's looking for her manther.
Katie, congratulations on your Manther. I'm so happy for you, friend.
It's her burden to bear. Anyways, back to the bourbon. What we're looking at is Gifted Horse from Orphan Barrel. Now, if you're not familiar with Orphan Barrel, let's just say they specialize in rescuing lost, forgotten, or overlooked barrels somewhere in the back of the rick house and bottling it up for the world to enjoy. So it's kind of like the Lost Boys.
Oh, I think the same thing. It's basically the Hook of bourbon. Hook the movie. The Lost Boys. It's Neverland.
Okay.
It's Neverland. It's the Neverland of bourbon.
Neverland of bourbon.
It's the Neverland of bourbon. So Orphan Barrel takes the Lost Boys and puts them to work barreling some bourbon. Or it's like those people out there that restore classic cars. Whichever analogy you want to go
Those
with.
manthers out there restoring classic cars.
So those manthers go out there and they get that 67 Mustang. And they grow out their mustache. And they think they're really cool. Anyway, but these folks are actually bringing back rare barrels that otherwise might have been left to collect dust in a dark warehouse. Pause. Why do we never find old abandoned rick houses full of dusty barrels.
You know, it's just not our cross to bear right now. But if we ever do,
We're going barrel hunting in Kentucky one day.
just randomly going through,
Yes.
because that doesn't get you shot. Just walking
No.
through people's fields.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Looking, no. Now the company
We're
behind
just the Lost Boys. It's fine.
You're a lost boy. There's a lot we have to tell people then.
Continue.
The company behind Orphan Barrel is Diageo. If you haven't heard of Diageo, they own some very unique brands such as Johnny Walker and Bullet. They're one of
Heard
the
of them.
world's, if not the world's, largest distributor of alcohol. Now, they launched Orphan Barrel in 2014. They're making it a pet project where they're releasing limited runs. So it's really an opportunity where they're looking for unique barrels that aren't being used in other things that they can blend together with their master blenders. Interesting thing about Diageo, they have a huge barreling production up in near Bardstown, and they just released this week that they're done barreling for the year, and they're trying to explain it as that they've reached their peak and they're good, and that they're sending their folks to another area to do some work and for some training. But
We'll see.
I find that interesting.
We'll see.
I think they're also the folks that are closing down the
Stetzel Weller?
the Stetzel Weller. I think they're the
Yeah.
company behind the slow move of that. So some movement.
It's
on the
weird. It's weird
bourbon front.
times in the bourbon world,
And-
but we'll
and we're-
see how
and-
it shakes out.
And we're not near there. I mean, we're physically not
Right.
near there. So
Right.
we're literally reading to you stories
Yeah.
that we've read from electronic
We'll
sources.
see how it all plays out. It's usually not quite as dire as the news
No.
sometimes makes it out to be. But essentially, Orphan Barrel is basically finding all these little treasures all over Kentucky and Tennessee, and they're kind of bringing them in-house and making something magical out of
I
them.
bet they go to Indiana as well.
Probably.
So speaking of little treasures, let's talk about the Gifted Horse.
Little history with Heather. Just a little bit. A little bit. This one is weird. Like you. But in the best possible way. So, unlike most Orphan Barrel releases, which are super high-aged bourbons, Gifted Horse, our friend here, was a happy little accident.
Yeah, the story goes that some poor soul at the warehouse made a mistake and accidentally blended a high rye bourbon with a much younger corn whiskey. And instead of scrapping it, they tasted and went, nah, we can sell this. And that's what happened.
It's basically the bourbon equivalent of the 1970s at Levi's. So you accidentally make bell bottoms, and then whoops, you invented a fashion statement. Worked out okay.
Or those hip highs that y'all used to wear.
What is a hip high?
They're tragic.
I've never heard the term hip high.
They're the mom jeans.
So high-waisted jeans.
Yeah, they're tragic.
You're not a fan.
They're tragic.
You're not a fan.
I'm not. Tragic.
I'm gonna ignore that because they're comfortable. So what's in this bottle? It's a
I didn't say they're not comfortable. My sweatpants are comfortable. They're not a fashion statement. I don't wear them to the bar.
It is a blend of 17-year-old bourbon, 4-year-old bourbon, and a 4-year-old corn whiskey. So that means it's got some maturity, but also a bold, unpolished youthfulness.
I'm very mature. Respectable.
Respectable. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
I'm
you
like
are.
a gifted horse.
You are the gifted horse. That's
Isn't it?
exactly how I describe you.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
On point.
So, this has tasting notes.
This is going to taste like something.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first though, you got to smell it. So on the nose, we're supposed to get a mix of dark fruit, caramel, but you're supposed to also get a little bit of the grain note from that younger grain. I get
Dark-
some caramel.
Dark fruit.
I
yeah.
get some caramel and some dark fruit. I don't get a whole lot of the grainy smell. What are we supposed to get on the taste, B?
Supposed to start off sweet, with a little vanilla, a little oak. High rye spice supposed to kick in. You get a little bit more heat. So, supposed to be interesting. On the finish,
So it's supposed to be long with a nice peppery bite at the end. So it's almost reminding you that this was never meant to happen. So we've got, remember, the super aged with the very young. So it's a little bit of an interesting combination.
okay. Well, let's see what happens.
You ready to taste it? Ooh, what's our proof point?
115 proof, and yeah, I'd believe it.
I believe it.
Yep. It's easier for me to describe the finish first, and it is long, and the rye is definitely there.
The rye is there.
Spice.
The rye spice is there. There's a little bit of dark fruit sweetness towards the end. It drinks 115.
Every bit. Mm-hmm. It's very bold.
It is very bold.
Very bold. So when it first touches, I get a little numbing on the lips because it is bold at 115. Not that 115 is a low proof, but that's a bold 115 in my opinion.
It's every bit of it.
Yep. Full bodied. And that mule kicks at the back. I mean, it heats up. The further it goes back on your tongue.
The more you chew it.
Yeah.
The more you feel it. The middle back, your tongue feels it. I taste a little vanilla throughout, but it's not overly sweet.
I'm glad I took
That's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's not for the casual bourbon drinker either.
I'll tell you what it is. It is
like my tongue is tingling.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to pretend to say I know what Diageo is going for. I think what they were looking for is a way to start a pet project to clear out barrels and houses that they could get on a good buy and make some interesting things. And I'm not knocking that because that's called blending.
That's cool.
And what we have learned is the art to blending is something that when I started my bourbon journey,
you weren't in favor of as
well,
much.
I didn't understand it.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I hear you.
I thought the term distiller and blender were supposed to be synonymous, but not necessarily. I mean, maybe, but not always. This is one where I want to. This is, to me, it's a hush your mouth because this is the type thing that we bring Aaron and Steve or Tyler over. We bring some people over and we pour this and say, this is a unique fox. Let's
tell us your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
What are you getting?
Let's start some conversation and let's pull some other things out around that proof point and try to understand.
Let's compare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like a caramel bomb or anything like that.
No. The only sweetness I get is at the very beginning up front.
Yeah. So for me, it's a hush your mouth just on the fact that it's exactly what I want it to be by its description. It's a unique bottle that I pull out with folks who like to sit around and drink bourbon as opposed to people who are drinking bourbon because they're at the bar.
Right. This is one of those that
which are fine.
You've already had a couple lower proof points, and you're all kind of hanging out. You know, you all like bourbon, and you say, "Hey, I got something a little different.
Yeah,
let's pull it out. Let's talk about it."
This is the type thing that when you go to a place like Hoppy Endings or Whiskey Kitchen or some of the others in the area that specialize in bourbon bars, you're looking for something
a little different.
Yeah,
a little unique that you can't just go grab every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the purpose of a bourbon bar versus a bar that has a nice bourbon selection.
Right, or has your classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are supposed to be two different animals. And
yeah, and there's absolutely a place for both.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah, not everyone needs a bourbon bar.
No.
So yeah, I'm back to hush your mouth, and I'm glad I've had it, and I like it.
Yeah.
It's just, it is unique. But the cool thing about it is they have, and looking at their website, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it looked like they had 10 or 12 different expressions.
Which makes sense because they're blending different things.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
they're probably none of them are the same.
Some come,
right?
some go. Yeah, they're all a little different.
Yeah. So I agree with your hush your mouth. I think it's unique. I think it's fun, and it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we hope you've enjoyed this. If you've had Gifted Horse.
Or anything else by Orphan Barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell everyone else about it. If you've enjoyed this episode, tell us about it. If you haven't enjoyed this episode,
also tell us about it.
Tell us about it. Just tell us.
Just tell us something. Anything. On that note.
I was trying to think of a Gifted Horse music reference because I always do that.
We didn't have any music references in this episode. I'm disappointed.
Wild horses keep drag me away.
On that note, cheers, y'all.
Cheers.